there's an old saying in the exploration business, the best place to find a mine is next to a mine. And so when you're next to the world's best silver mine and you recognize there's alteration and there's open ground, that's pretty good property to get a hold of.
Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics on an exciting Tuesday in the market. We just got a government-contrived inflation report, which despite Jerome Powell saying that it's all transitory and just going to pass away soon, we now got our second 5% print, which again, I believe is bigger than 2%. Although fortunately, to dig into that, as well as where to find silver. And I don't know why anybody would want to look for silver when inflation is roaring at 5%. God only knows what the real numbers are. So to dig in today, I am joined not only by Jorge Ramiro Monroy of Reyna Silver, but quite a special treat to have Dr. Peter Megaw joining us today. At least as far as I'm aware, the top geologist, especially in Mexico. And how fortunate that as me and my dog here, ready to go out sniffing for some silver, waiting for Jorge to lead the mine tour, silver mine tour at Silverfest too. So gentlemen, it's great to have you here today. Jorge, how are you?
I'm doing very well. It's great to see you, Chris, and really happy to have Peter here for the first time. And I know we've been in your show a number of times, and I've always thought of inviting Peter, and today we were able to make it happen. So very pleased about that.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And Peter, great to have you here today. Nice to see you on the show for the first time. Welcome, my friend.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. Wish I was where you are on the beach in America.
Yeah, maybe you can come on down here, and if there's any silver underneath that sand, I guess let's hop right in, because certainly if people were looking for silver in Mexico, you're at the top of the list of experts to call on that. Anything you could say just to get us started about finding silver in Mexico, or anything that people should know today as we sit here in mid-July of 2021?
Well, I mean, Mexico, there's something special about Mexico as far as silver is concerned. 25% of all the silver mined in human history has come from Mexico. So that's about 12.5 billion of the 50 billion ounces that have been produced since people started digging silver out of the ground, however many millennia ago we dug out the first stuff. So Mexico obviously is the place to be for silver, but deeper than that, Mexico is where to go for big silver. Because if you look around the world, there's about 15 districts that have produced more than 1 billion ounces of silver, and 8 of those are in Mexico. So, a combination of more silver, big silver. I mean, geologists sit around in the evening, drink beer, talk about why Mexico has so much silver. But the fact is, primary order of business as far as exploration is concerned, Mexico is where to be for silver. So that's why we're there, and that's why we're looking for more. Historically, the silver deposits in Mexico were found in outcrop, most of them within about 150 years of the Spanish conquest. And the history of mining silver in Mexico since then has just been increased production from these deposits that have been known now for almost 500 years. So there's lots of Mexico that's covered. We have new exploration techniques that let us look through cover. And when you have supportive shareholders who are willing to follow a concept and allow you to drill undercover, you can make some pretty good discoveries.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm wondering, what is it particularly about Mexico? Why Mexico? What geologically has all of that silver there?
Well, I've actually put a fair amount of time into this and stuck my neck out and actually given some talks in public on the subject. But fundamentally, what I think it boils down to is Mexico, the tectonics of Mexico, the geology of Mexico is sort of the perfect storm in terms of the timing of when the silver was deposited there, the time since then to allow that silver to be exposed, but not enough time for it all to have been eroded away. So silver tends to form relatively high in the Earth's crust. So 30 million years ago, roughly, when most of Mexico's silver was deposited, we've had 30 million years of erosion. It's exposed. It's still there. That's it. I'd like to be really that simple. It probably isn't, but it makes a good story.
Well, that's why you got Jorge there for all the complex calculations. Also, Jorge, you were born in Mexico, I understand correctly?
Yeah, I was born in Mexico, but I have to tell you, Peter is much more Mexican than I am, because Peter has been there since he was a young man. But he's been in Mexico. I was born in Mexico City, and I've had the opportunity of traveling to Mexico with Peter, and he's much more of a local in the mining towns that I am. He really has such an incredible journey. I've had the opportunity to be close to Peter. He's been obviously a great mentor and a friend. But I've had an opportunity to travel with Peter around the world and in mining projects. And I have to tell you, Peter has such an amazing journey of exploration. And he knows Mexico. I'll tell you one thing that really catches my attention is every once in a while, especially since Reyna Silver went public, somebody will send you a project and ask you, look, would Reyna Silver be interested in this project? And I sent it to Peter, and he's like, yes. In 1978, I looked at this project, and he'll remember exactly what he had seen about that project, and really, really an incredible depth of knowledge, but also an incredible passion for discoveries. And I was very excited for Peter to come here and maybe share some of his amazing stories of discoveries in Mexico, especially. I don't know, Peter, if you might be willing to share a sort of a shorter version of how you came across Juanicipio and how you started Mag Silver, because that's such an amazing story.
Juanicipio was an overnight success, 25 years in the making. I mean, I first set foot on the ground out there in the mid-90s when the property was in limbo as far as who could own it. Liked what I saw. About 4 years later, it wound up in the hands of a good friend of mine. And, we were able to get a hold of it for Sunshine Mining Company. We did basically all the pre-drilling work for Sunshine. They went terminally bankrupt in 2001. The property came back to my friend, who was the underlying owner of the property, and we used that along with Guigui and Batopilas, the two properties that are the flagship properties for Reyna Silver, were what we built Mag on. It's there's an old saying in the exploration business: the best place to find a mine is next to a mine. And so when you're next to the world's best silver mine and you recognize there's alteration and there's open ground, that's pretty good property to get a hold of. And that's basically the same thing we can say about the property at Guigui, and the same thing we can say about Batopilas. So these are looking for previously unanticipated or unexpected portions of these systems. I mean, it all goes back to my first work in Mexico in the early 80s with Kennecott in the Bolaños district, where we found a completely blind virgin bonanza vein in a district that had been in production since about 1660. And as a young geologist, it was a complete revelation to me to realize that you could go into a district with that kind of history, and by applying modern geologic ideas and a bunch of boot leather, you could find something like that. But they hadn't all been found by the old timers. And so once you recognize that, then you start to go to the places where the chances are better that you're going to find something big, and you start looking at where the belts of the big deposits are, and you work along those belts and find places that things have been missed. And it works.
And that's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, the history of Juanicipio, I mean, Fresnillo and a number of people had looked at it and thought, look, there's nothing here. And then, if I'm not mistaken, you found the bonanza zone of the vein on the first drill hole that you ever drilled for Mag. Is that correct?
Sort of. A lot of people looked at it. A lot of people thought there was potential there for one reason or another. In the early 90s, the market was really bad for silver. And so the cost of holding the property versus the cost of exploring it didn't seem reasonable. It was not a good business decision, so the ground was dropped. We came up with a different geologic thesis for the area, that the alteration that we saw was the kind of thing that used to be on top of the Fresnillo area. And if that was the case, then there should be a Fresnillo underneath the alteration. And our first drill hole hit a 2-meter wide vein that ran 730 grams silver and almost 11 grams gold. So that proved the thesis. And we continued to drill. Our friends from Fresnillo approached us and said, hey, this is, we know this district. We'd like to partner with you. We think we can bring a lot to the table. And so the 4th hole drilled by the joint venture hit Juanicipio, the Valdecañas vein, which was the really big vein. And that was 9 meters of almost 2 kilos silver with 3 grams gold and 7% combined zinc. And then since then, we've moved the property forward with them. They're doing a phenomenal job of building that mine. Having a partner who is, you talk about being Mexican, having a partner who's a Mexican partner who understands how to operate in Mexico is really important. So it's worked out very well, but it is a question of looking at things differently.
Yeah, and did you, when you drilled that first hole, did you ever imagine it was going to get as big as it is, as about to go into production as I guess one of the highest grade silver mines in Mexico?
Well, it's
in the world.
It actually, the projections are based on the anticipated production. By 22, maybe 23, it will be the world's largest silver production with a little more than 20 million ounces of silver production that year. I can't say that was sort of within my realm of imagination.
But what did you think when you came home and saw those assays for the first time, and we were like, okay, this could be something, or did you have some sort of, because it's interesting to think about, for us who are not technical, like what goes in the mind of a geologist, and like say from that initial reaction, did you say, okay, this is going to be something really big?
When we put the first hole through the Valdecañas vein, we knew that we had found a major vein. We didn't understand at that point exactly how major it was, that we essentially were unlocking a whole new half, or maybe less than that, depending on your perspective of the Fresnillo district, but that we were in the position to sort of duplicate what had already been known in the district. And it's unfolding that that's actually the case. So, it was a very gratifying validation of years worth of work. And there were a lot of people who put a lot of work into it with me. And so it's, one of whom was Rene Ramirez. He did the mapping with me, the formulation of the drill targets and all of that. And now he's running the drilling at Guigui for Reyna.
Yeah, I know he's an amazing geologist as well. And Peter, actually, this is a good transition to something that Chris and I were discussing, when we were thinking about this, this conversation. And, Chris has done an amazing job being an advocate for silver. And I think through his program, a lot of people have recently discovered silver as an asset class. And I think for many of them, they're very new to the silver exploration equities. As a matter of fact, one thing that I've noticed about the audience from Chris is that it's not just sort of people in the sort of older vintage, but a lot of younger people who are just looking at silver equities for the first time, sort of on the belief of what's happening on the context of the macro economics of the world, the inflation, the manipulation of the silver market, the debasement of the dollar. But one thing that we thought would be great, to talk to you about, Peter, was, nowadays a lot of people talk about, high grade silver, district scale, especially in the context of junior mining exploration. I mean, would you mind sharing with you a little bit of your thoughts on those two topics, and maybe a little bit of a guide for people who are looking at mining exploration equities and what they want to look at, and maybe you share some of those thoughts with us.
I'm happy to. I've given this a lot of thought and have a fair amount of background on the whole subject. I mean, first of all, it just comes down, the most fundamental choice that you make when you're investing is, am I looking for short-term returns, in which case you're looking for companies that will perform in the market, or am I looking for long-term, real wealth-creating discoveries? And that's not necessarily the same company that's going to do very well in the short term in the market. And yes, the whole buzzwords of district scale, high grade, I think I probably, in modesty, can say that I'm at least partially responsible for getting those kicked off. There's another component to that, which is not just high grade and district scale, but high margin. And the whole point with high margin and high grade is you want something that'll make money under the worst of conditions. So, if you're invested in something that will make money when times are bad, you can sleep at night when times are bad. And when times are good, you can party all night if that's how you choose to spend the money that you've made on your investment. District scale translates into something that's big enough to last several market cycles, so that you're not just sleeping at night for the short period of time that the mine is in production. You're sleeping and partying for the 20 or 30 or 40 years that mine is cranking out enormous value. I mean, a good mine is a huge creation of wealth. It's arguable that it's just as much trouble to find and put a small mine into production as a big mine. So focus on what it takes to make a major discovery and build a major mine. It takes longer, it costs a little bit more, but in the long run, the payoff is a lot better. And, we can get into the details about how you do that. I mean, when we look at profitability or high margin, we're looking for a minimum threshold of a mine that will make at least twice the net smelter recovery from that mine. So you take whatever it costs you to mine, whatever it costs you to mill, whatever it costs you to send the stuff to the smelter. I mean, all of your costs involved in producing a ton of ore, you double that. And you need to be able to recover from whatever that ton of ore was twice what it cost you to get out of the ground. And that covers everything from, the accountant's favorite amortization, depletion and depreciation, but it also covers recovery of your capital expenditure and a little bit of margin for price fluctuations and a 15% after-tax internal rate of return. And when you look at the time frame involved in any kind of mining operation, if you're not making or have the potential to make that, you should be buying lottery tickets, because it's just your chances of making money are better. So if you go in with that kind of approach, and you can figure out very quickly whether what the people are looking for or what they've already found is likely to do that. And I plug into that what I know the mining costs are in Mexico and so on and so forth. And to make something work in an underground mining environment in Mexico, you need at least 300 to 350 grams silver. And so if you're getting something that's not projected to produce that kind of silver, it's probably not going to make it long term. And if you can find something that will do that, then that gets you comfortably over the bar. I mean, when I look at this, it's like my daughter used to jump horses. And, you can clear the bar by an inch, or you can clear the bar by a foot. And I want to be clearing the bar by the foot, because that bar moves. The price of metals goes up or down. The cost of doing business goes up or down. Cost of energy goes up or down. What we saw in 2011 and 12, when the price of silver and gold were both going to record or near record levels, was that operating costs were going up 50 to 20% a year. And that's year on year. So your metal price, your profitability margin has to be supported by a metal price that can support that. And, that's not easy to do. The best way to do it is cover it with grade. And the best way to live through the cycles is have something big enough to last a long time.
Yeah, and Peter, these days people talk a lot about district scale. I mean, can you maybe explain what that term actually means? Because I think that's another one that comes a lot in a lot of presentations.
Yes, and I think if you listen to a lot of presentations, it's fairly clear that people don't have a good idea of what a district is. And if you go, fundamental economic geology tells you that you have a heat center that creates mineralization around it. And a district is essentially all of the mineralization related to a particular heat center. And, a heat center is usually a body of magma that's placed into the crust, and it stirs up a bunch of hot water, and that moves and it creates veins or replacement deposits or skarns or porphyries, whatever it does. But that system has a finite size. But that size is typically measured in multiple kilometers in radius surrounding that center. And so when I talk about a district, I'm talking about putting together essentially all of the mineralization that is potentially related to that center. So you're talking about something that is 10 by 10 or 10 by 20 kilometers, which is a pretty good size system. That's a district. It's not a mine. It's not a couple of mines. It's all the mines that are possible in the district. Because if you're going to go to the trouble of figuring out where the mineralization is in the district, you don't want to get that figured out and then have somebody else come in and discover that you left 3/4 of the district behind, and they can apply the same techniques and approach that you developed at great expense and risk and apply that to the rest of the system and produce from it. So you want to control the whole system if you possibly can.
Great. No, that's very, and then maybe the last one that I always enjoy, and I learned this from you. I'm not sure where you learned this from, but I know that you speak about it extensively, is the Archie's rule. Do you mind maybe sharing that one as well? Because I think that's also a great thing that we can all apply when we're looking at different mining projects.
Yeah, Archie's rule comes out of that whole business of recovery. I mean, Archie's rule basically is recovering twice your all-in expenditures. That's what his rule is. And
who is this Archie?
Oh, Archie was Archie Bell. He was the vice president of exploration for Noranda, which was once upon a time a major Canadian mining company. The same rule exists in other ways in other organizations, but a number of us in the group of people I've worked with have a Noranda background. So that's the name we've used for it. And because Archie was such a stickler about applying it. But if you look at that rule, and if you solve the equation of I must be able to recover twice my all-in operating costs, and you plot that on a graph of grade versus metal price, you'll see very quickly that it is not a straight line, that the curve comes down, and the closer you get, as closer your costs get to your grade, the flatter the line gets. You want to be on the upper side of that line, and you want to be where the curve is as steep as possible, because that gives you maximum leverage and maximum comfort relative to that line. Because if the metal price goes down, that line moves against you. If operating costs go up, that line moves against you. So you don't want to be in a situation where somebody moving the goalposts puts you offside. You want to be comfortably in a place where as much as you can manage, you'll be onside. And so that's really all it is. You can use it to evaluate any kind of project, any commodity, any kind of mining environment, open pit, underground, in the United States, in Mexico, in Timbuktu, wherever you want. It's a very simple metric that you can apply to any mining investment and determine very quickly whether it's likely to make sense as a mining project. That doesn't tell you whether or not it's going to be the darling of the market long enough for a few people to make a bunch of money as the share price goes up. But it's the one that'll tell you whether or not the project makes sense in terms of actually creating wealth. And if what you're looking for in terms of silver is something that will continue to give you upside exposure to silver over a long period of time, if you can make one or two good bets that will then carry you for a long time, that's a whole lot better than making a bunch of little side bets, hoping that some of them will come in. That's just my philosophy. Some people like day trading and they work differently. I'm in it for the long haul. I've been in silver for 40 years, and I think I will be taken out feet first from the world of silver.
Can't walk away now, right?
Yeah.
Last question I have for you guys here. We have some recent news of 10,000 meter drill campaign at Batopilas. Peter, anything you can share with us on this one?
Batopilas, yeah.
Batopilas, yeah. So actually, Peter, maybe you can share a little bit about Batopilas. One thing I wanted to, before Peter tells you about Batopilas and the 10,000 meter drill campaign we're doing there, I think I've done this a number of times, but we do have a great book called The Silver Magnet, which is the history of how Batopilas was established as a mine. And if any of your listeners wants a copy, just send me an email at info@reynasilver.com and we'll get you a copy, unless you live really far away from North America. But feel free to to send us your address, and we'll be happy to send you a copy. And then I think, Peter, the silver specimen that's behind you is also from Batopilas. So maybe on those notes, I'll let you talk about Batopilas and also what we're doing there in this current drill program.
Batopilas is one of my favorite exploration targets in Mexico. What you're talking about, the silver magnet, that's actually just the last chapter of the Batopilas history, because Batopilas has been in production intermittently since the 1600s. It's produced about 300 million ounces of silver. Most of that was actually produced during the Spanish mining era, the colonial mining era. When the Batopilas Mining Company came in, which is the family that the silver magnet is about, their goal was to come in at the river level and come in underneath the old Spanish workings and then mine from the bottom up as opposed from the top down. And that worked very well for them until 1913, when the Mexican Revolution happened and Pancho Villa's guys came in and basically tore up the district. But historically, the veins in Batopilas are the highest grade silver mines ever in Mexico. 90% of the production came from less than 10% of the ore. That ore averaged better than 2% silver. So that's 20 kilos. That's, of course, diluted by a lot of lower grade material that was produced over the years. But you can see that if you've got 2% silver, the other stuff just sort of comes along, whether you want it to or not, but you're making plenty of money off the super high grade. It was historically what we call a stope and hope operation, where you just keep the structure in the face and follow it until the ore bodies open up. The ore bodies were anywhere from a half meter to a couple of meters wide, 30 to 100 meters on strike, and up to 350 meters down plunge. So they're like these inclined shoots of mineralization in these structures. They occurred all over the district. And, just as I was talking about earlier in terms of taking what's known of the district, projecting it into the unknown parts of the district and finding new mineralization, that's what we've been doing at Batopilas. We took the historic veins, projected them to the northeast underneath cover. We did some trenching last year. We found blind veins in place. Native silver came out of the outcrops, telling us this is the right structure. And once you've done that, it's not very hard to design your drill program. You simply just set up holes that'll drill underneath it, and see if you can start to flesh out something that matters. So that's basically the beginning of the program we're in right now. One of the big surprises that came out of last year's program was gold. This Batopilas historically is known almost exclusively for silver. I mean, beautiful crystallized silver like the one behind me. But last summer, we started finding significant gold grades, up to better than 20 grams gold coming in the extreme northeast part of the district. We don't yet understand whether they're part and parcel of the same mineralized system, but gold is not one of those things that you kick out of bed for eating crackers. If it comes along for the ride, you're more than happy to have that come along. So we've got drill holes designed to test that as well.
Alrighty, that makes a lot of sense. And Jorge, maybe you can touch on this last one here. But also about a week or so ago, Reyna Silver adds second drill to Guigui project. What can you tell us there?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. And I think we added that in part to speed the program. We want to release results to the public as soon as possible, and then I think with this second drill rig, we're looking to conclude the drilling program in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then as results come, the idea is to put the entire program together towards the end of August or early September. And maybe to just give you a brief overview of the objective of the drill campaign, I'll let Peter explain what is it that we're looking for geologically in this project.
I mean, I think it's worth putting the second drill hole, the second rig into perspective. That we're looking for the intrusive source to Mexico's largest carbonate replacement system. When you study these districts, I mean, that whole part of the system has never been found. So that's what I mean when I say half of the Santa Eulalia district remains to be found, and all the indications are that half lies in the Guigui property. So the target we're looking for is perhaps 1 kilometer in diameter. We're looking for that in an area that's about 6 by 4 kilometers. And we've done a lot of surface mapping, sampling, geochemistry, satellite imagery, geophysics. We have all of these pieces that we've put together to define a drill program that we think will lead us to that target. Now, again, those targets are scattered all over this very large piece of property. We started under COVID restrictions, so we had to sort of take things slowly. We've moved things forward. We've recognized that now that things are loosening up a little bit, Chihuahua's under the green flag now, so we can move around a lot better than we could. So it made sense to bring in a second rig and continue picking off these targets that have been on our plan since the beginning. It's more efficient. Yes, we'll get to talk about it sooner, but the goal really is to make the discovery, and this is just what we have to do to pick off the targets that we've already identified.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's great to see what you guys have been doing. Jorge, perhaps closing up, you can let folks know how they can reach you guys if they have questions, want to get anything answered.
Yes, if anybody has any questions, my email address is jorge@reynasilver.com. You can also, if it's easier, write at info@reynasilver.com. That forwards to my email, and always happy to chat, always happy to take any questions. And we do also post regularly on all our social media, and you can see it on our website. So that's also another way to stay connected with the company.
Well, Peter, I appreciate you being here as well today. Any final thoughts? And again, thank you for all the information you shared. Anything else you'd like to leave us with today?
Chris, first of all, it's been a pleasure to finally meet you and have the opportunity to be on your show. It's been a lot of fun. I love where the silver price is. I think it's going higher. I like to say that our focus on grade means we don't have to worry about the price of silver. It can go down and we'll still make money. It goes up, we make buckets of money. that's to me the sweet spot you want to be in any kind of project. And so that's what we'll keep doing. But gotta love the current price of silver and the projections for where it could go.
Yeah, especially when you're seeing news like this where inflation higher than expected as it hits 5.4%. And we all eagerly await Jerome Powell's next press conference where he explains the transitory nature of the situation. But until then, gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for being here. We'll look forward to doing this again soon. And if you need a guy who's got a nice shovel and a good dog to sniff out some silver, you can come on down here and I'll be waiting.
Sounds good. We might take you up on it.
I'll be looking forward to it.
Just look in those hills up above you. There's a lot of silver up there.
All right. Well, I know if there's anyone who can help me find it, I'm in the right place. So thank you, gentlemen. And we'll look forward to doing this again soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks again. Take care.